welcome back to the channel. This is Sophia, and today we'll be learning about Venus retrograde. I discovered that one of the best ways to learn about Vedic astrology is to understand the quirks of the system. This is what Venus retrograde is, the quirk in the system. So let's learn about it, because it is not the easiest placement in a chart, and yet it is a superpower. What is Venus retrograde? And if you have this in your birth chart, what is the core wound associated with Venus retrograde? So someone with a Venus retrograde came into this life with a fundamental confusion about their own worth. Not low self-worth exactly, something stranger, a sense that the way they experience love, pleasure, beauty, and desire is somehow different from how everyone else experiences it, and cannot figure out if they're broken or if everyone else is missing something. They often feel that they are watching a game of attraction and relationship from behind a glass. They see others pair off into relationships quite effortlessly and enjoy simple pleasures without overthinking, and receive compliments and even believe them. And they wonder, why does this feel so complicated for me? So it's important to then understand what might have transpired in this person's childhood to bring about these patterns. So one was, love was very conditional in a way that was never explicitly stated. The child learned to perform worthiness rather than simply exist in it. Perhaps affection was withdrawn unpredictably. Perhaps one parent was emotionally unavailable, and the child spent years trying to decode what would finally make them lovable. Perhaps they were the good child who had to earn belonging through being useful or beautiful, talented, or even invisible. The second thing that may have happened in this person's childhood was love was present, but it was twisted, distorted. So a parent who loved them, but through the lens of their own narcissism. So the child was never seen for who they actually were. Or love that came with enmeshment, where boundaries were violated in the name of closeness. The child learned that love means losing yourself, so it created boundaries around itself. The third thing possibly that could have happened in the childhood was early experiences of rejection, betrayal, abandonment that happened before the child had language to process them, right? And then when they grew older and they experienced their first loves as an adolescent person, it might have ended in humiliation. It's also possible. Being the one who loved more and then getting left for someone else is very painful. Or they were being told that they were too much or not enough without ever understanding which one was true. So the result is a person who developed a private, very private relationship with desire. They learned early that what they wanted was somehow unsafe to want openly. So they built an inner world for themselves. Which means as an adult, how they might move through life is very different from how other people might move through life. For example, a Venus retrograde person often have extraordinary taste. Venus is all about beauty and aesthetic and really good taste in things, right? And retrograde, what that would do is make the planet, strengthen the planet actually 10x, because retrograde always has more power, closer to planet Earth, And it gives the illusion of moving backwards, but it isn't really. Earth is moving faster and it feels like the planet is moving backwards. If you're on a highway and your own car is moving fast, so you feel like the other cars are moving backwards. But that's speed distortion is what makes this planet 10x more powerful. So a Venus retrograde person has unconventional taste, but very specific, okay? Even if it's unconventional, doesn't matter. They know exactly what they find beautiful, and it's rarely mainstream, right? They're the ones who find the obscure artists out there. They always find the underrated film, the strange aesthetic that becomes fashionable 10 years later. So their values around love, beauty, and pleasure were developed in solitude because, remember, retrograde, by definition, is turning inward. So most people might project their desires outward, whereas a retrograde person turns inward. So if they spent a lot of time in solitude from rejection in childhood, possible they develop their own tastes, and originality comes from this, right? But one of their problems is they struggle to receive anything, love or material things or even compliments, something that simple. Because compliments to them feel suspicious. Gifts feel like obligation, and someone loving them freely without having to earn it creates sorts of anxiety rather than relief. They may unconsciously feel or even test relationships or push people away or choose partners who confirm their belief that love requires suffering. Then their relationship with money is also very difficult because Venus also represents money. There is an unconscious belief that they do not deserve to keep this money for some reason. Or they might do the opposite. They might hold a lot of money out of fear that they will lose it. So they're unable to enjoy what they have because enjoyment itself feels really dangerous. They may go through long periods of romantic isolation as well. Not because no one wants them. It's quite the opposite. They're very attractive people. Because Venus retrograde again is 10x the power of normal Venus. So these people, they don't understand their own value and their own worth. And I'll tell you why. And this is something that I've noticed in my own readings. Do you know in the Middle Ages when they burned women alive and called them witches for being too smart? Why? Because the patriarchy was terrified that if women learned to think for themselves, get educated, have their own households and their own money, that they would surpass the patriarchal system. So they feared them and they burned them alive at the stake and called them witches for having an opinion. This is a Venus retrograde person. They're burnt alive at the stake and called witches because everyone fears their power. 10x the power, remember that. Venus retrograde is more powerful. In Vedic astrology is known as Cheshtabal, right? Cheshtabal means inherent strength. And any retrograde planet gets more Cheshtabal, which means its drawing capacity is 10 times. So they are 10 times more attractive, but they might go through a long period of romantic isolation because they can't actually tolerate the vulnerability that comes from being wanted. That is devastating. Or they might serial date as well without ever letting anyone truly into their own inner space because they learned early on that creating this inner sanctuary is safe. Or they might attach to unavailable people because unavailability feels familiar, safe, and controllable. What is their inner experience though? Because we want to understand why this pattern is happening and how we can break it. Inside, there is often a profound loneliness that they learn to beautify. Again, Venus is aesthetics. They want to find beauty in melancholy. And they understand sad songs at a level that frightens them sometimes. They have a relationship with longing itself. Not just longing for something, but longing as a state of being. Some part of them believes that fulfilled desire would be the depth of something essential in them. So they often feel like they are from another time or place. They might have older values, really like they might be old school in their thinking. The values of the current culture around relationships and dating, like apps and casual transactional relationships, this tit-for-tat energy and competition between the two species. They don't understand this. This is very new and alien to their psychology. They want something they cannot quite name. And this is important for learning about Venus retrograde. What they want is devotion. Devotion is a word that is an artifact of a different time, honestly. These days, with conditional dating and discarding of people at a moment's notice, it's what is devotion? People don't really know what that even means anymore. But Venus retrograde is pure devotion. There's no other explanation for this kind of algorithm. What it wants is to dedicate itself to something, someone, and have that happen back to them. Because when they attach fully, and it is unconditional. And that is why they get taken advantage of as well, early on in life. Later on, they learn exactly what their value is. How many people can give you devotion? This is literally Parvati and Shiva level devotion to each other. And devotion, by definition itself, is unconditional and detached. It detaches from the outcome. It doesn't matter if you love me back. I will give you my love anyway. Can you imagine the kind of worth that comes from this kind of thinking? So yeah, they really were burnt alive at the stake in their childhoods, isn't it? Because if you are capable of this kind of love, everyone around you who is banking on conditional love will be threatened by it. So there is a frequency of hidden generosity that is hidden in these people. And because they've been taken advantage of so long, they feel like they have low self-worth, which is absolutely untrue. Right? These are not ordinary lovers. These are lovers from a whole other time and a whole other capacity. It's very rare. So what is the end game for people with Venus retrograde? They are not witches. They are alchemists, they're magicians, and they will thrive once they understand their value. So the sole lesson for Venus retrograde is learning to receive. Plain and simple. Not earning something, not deserving something, not having to prove something, simply receiving without apology. That is your lesson. You do not have to pay them back. You do not have to prove anything. You do not have to perform love. The end game is the moment when they let someone love them without immediately wondering that this person wants, or when they might abandon them, or what is wrong with them for staying. This is the moment when they can look in the mirror and find themselves beautiful without needing external validation to believe it. So this retrograde planet suggests that this is a soul pattern that's been carried across lifetimes. The person is reworking something about love and value. They came in with the question already asked, what am I worth? Because they've been wondering about it for many lives. So this lifetime, they've gotten a retrograde Venus in their birth chart because they want to leave this incarnation knowing that they are worth 1,000,000 diamonds. So when Venus retrograde is fully integrated, these people become extraordinary lovers, artists, and when things start building on their own and in their originality, they become the ones who teach the rest of us what love actually is. So this is what I have for Venus Retrograde. If you're not subscribed to this channel, please do consider subscribing. I will come back with more information, so stay tuned. Well, bye for now.